Go, go, motherfucking Power Rangers! So let me just get this guy situated and dusted off. It's been a while since I've kind of tinkered with them. It's got dust all over the place. This is one of my first action figures that I've ever owned, and I've kept him ever since, and for good reason. Because he's going to definitely be standing in during this review. Just gonna put him right there. Yes, you bet your mighty morphin ass that he's gonna be in this review. So I think a year or two back, we got that short film that was about 10 or 15 minutes of what it would look like if we were to get a dark and gritty Power Rangers. People watched it, especially people who are humongous fans from back in the 90s with the original Power Rangers, and said, what if that was to be the case? What if a full-length film was made out of the Power Rangers only in this contemporary time and brought it to brand new audiences? And people were kind of skeptical because after that dark take that we saw in that short film, it's kind of like, oh, do we really need to go dark and gritty? And my answer was no. That it just felt like the tone was just completely off with this kind of premise. As much as I love the original 90s Power Rangers and I would watch it every Saturday morning, I would often quote the lines, quote the song. I would do everything. I had a Blue Ranger costume. It was my pastime. And of course, when they said that they were going to be making a movie, and let alone they made this brand new short film that was supposed to be dark and gritty, I needed to check it out. And to me, the tone just wasn't matching up. So Power Rangers, as much as I love it, and it's part of my childhood, I admit, it's a really goofy show. It's a really goofy premise. But I still enjoy it. It's part of my childhood. I'm not going to deny what was part of my childhood. So with that being said, I knew that it was mandatory for me to check out the 2017 reboot, rehash, revamp type of iteration coming over from Lionsgate and Saban Pictures. And in this brand new version, we have Rita Repulsa building this army of creatures called putties, and she's trying to raise this monster called Goldar so that she's able to take the crystal from the core of the earth. So it's up to Zordon to recruit these teenagers that then will become the Power Rangers. And as I talk about the plot of this movie, it does not differentiate whatsoever from that original show. It's one of the things I genuinely loved about this movie is that it was very matter of fact. It never once deviated that far off from its original premise. You got Zordon, like they didn't even try to be kind of secretive about the code names here, like, oh, they call it's this thing, but you can call it Zord for short to kind of give a brand new twist. They're like, no, these things are called Zords. They're giant robot dinosaurs pretty much, and you're gonna be able to ride them. Oh, that giant talking head, his name is Zordon. My name's Alpha 5. Welcome to the world of Power Rangers. They never beat around the bush, unlike these other reboots or these brand new takes on this property that used to be silly, but now they're trying to be dark and gritty about it. They never did that in this movie. They were just very straight up and to the point with the premise and how goofy it could be, but also how fun they can have with the material. And for the most part, this movie does have fun with the material. It never delves into being that dark and gritty type of version that we saw in that short film. It's actually fun, but still with a modernized take that wasn't very 90s. It was much more brought to the more millennial audiences of it being in 2017. As much as I love how quick and to the point they were about this premise of how these elements kind of came to Earth, where Zordon came from, why he is with Alpha 5, why he's recruiting these teenagers to become Power Rangers, there is a rather slow build to that. And it kind of makes sense because I feel like Lionsgate, not being one of the bigger studios out there in the likes of Disney or Universal or even Paramount, they're going to have a stricter budget. I mean, Lionsgate's biggest franchise before Power Rangers was The Hunger Games. And that's a bunch of kids running around the woods. Here, you're dealing with Power Rangers, and they're going to be bringing over their Zords, and they're going to be forming that Megazord that was teased in the trailer. Then you got Goldar to deal with, and Rita Rasputa's powers. So that is going to cost a shit ton of money. And it kind of shows off the bat when you start to realize that as time goes on, and we start to learn more about these characters, you're probably going to have to wait until the third act, if not maybe the final 30 minutes to get to the Power Rangers that you know and love. Because leading up to that, you're getting to know your brand new team of this new Jason, this new Billy, new Kimberly. The Power Rangers retaining their original names, but you got these brand new versions. And out of the whole entire group, I thought that Kim, Jason, and Billy were the ones that I think I gravitated towards to the most, because acting wise they were better, but also the characters kind of had this stronger camaraderie amongst those three. Not only because they are actually in the school of Angel Grove, but also there's something that kind of unified them as the movie goes along. There's events that kind of brought them together stronger than the other two. The other two, Trini and Zach, played by these two actors, I thought they were somewhat questionable, because whether it was either the writing was kind of iffy, mainly on Trini's side, who was being that angsty character who's like, my parents are so normal. Yeah, but at least you can kind of try to be a decent fucking human being. And then you got Zach, whose background was kind of sympathetic, but that actor, man, there's a scene where he has to kind of bring this level of sympathy to the character. But his delivery of that little monologue, oh my god, it was some... I've seen film school acting better than that. And I'm going to say the same thing here that I said in Kong. David, why are you expecting these Oscar caliber performances or this character development that you expect out of hard-hitting dramas out of a movie called Power Rangers? Well, I expect it when you kind of give us like the majority of the movie with these characters prior to letting us see any of your cool special effects or the Ranger suits or the Zords themselves. There's a humongous build-up to that, so you kind of need to balance that out. You need to bring forward those three-dimensional characters. And there is a level of dimension, but again, there's either a questionable edit or a questionable line of dialogue or a questionable performance. We kind of start to delve into some Michael Bay territory, whether it be with the humor or with, again, some of the camera work or some of the edits or the way it's all kind of paced together, where things kind of like run really quickly. Like, there's certain things that get brought up and then they just get dropped, and I'm like, what happened with that thing? What happened with that tension between these two characters? So you're not gonna address that anymore? Oh, no, you're not? Okay, alright, sure. But it's once we meet Zordon and Alpha 5, mainly Alpha 5, because Bill Hader did a really good job voicing Alpha 5. I really liked him. Bryan Cranston, on the other hand, as Zordon, performance-wise, he was good, but writing, I thought he was a little bit of a dick in this movie, as opposed to the original Zordon, even though the original Zordon wasn't that much of an amazing character. I mean, again, it's Power Rangers. Why am I talking about it this way? But I think Bryan Cranston got a little underused with screen time. Maybe you could have understood why he's being such a dick. In fact, there's a little bit of a motivation behind this character that even that was kind of dickish. And I'm like, ugh. It had some really rough edges at the beginning, but as they trained to become Rangers and to learn the power of the morph, it is then when the movie kind of picked up for me, not only pacing-wise, but also I started to actually like these characters together. Even if they started to go through some tropish things in the script where you're like, okay, I know how this is gonna turn out. All right, why are you trying to fake me out? Still, I at that point I started to like these characters enough, and it is there where the movie finally kicks in that budget and just throws it in your fucking face and just never lets up, because the last 30 to 45 minutes is a complete gist fest for Power Rangers fans. And I loved it. There was a whole reason for why I was being super critical of the movie up until this point, because when I thought that the first half of this movie was kind of meh, the last half, more specifically the last 30 minutes or so of this movie, oh my god, I was getting punched repeatedly in the nostalgic feels, because they were putting the callbacks to the 90s show at the right moment. They knew when to put in the music. They knew when to put in the lines. They knew what to do with Rita Rasputa, who was really well played by Elizabeth Banks. Not in that Oscar caliber kind of way, because trust me, she's chewing up scenery like a motherfucker. But she's definitely having fun in that role. And then that's not to say that the original Rita was a top tier character. Alright, it wasn't. But she's able to give the lines when she needs to cater to those original Power Rangers fans, and just the movie takes off on a whole nother level of fun up until that point when they start to fight the putties, bring in the Zords, and leading up to that climax where you just can't help but just cheer and be like, oh, not only as a movie fan, but most especially as a Power Rangers fan. There was a moment where I was choking up, where I saw the Zords riding and the music kicked in, and I was like, huh, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me, alright? This is not Logan. Why am I being swollen up like this? This can't be happening. And just like that, the movie ends. Not abruptly, but it ends at the perfect sweet spot to leave you with that nostalgic feeling. Although there is one thing that completely took me out of the experience. My god, this movie has the worst product placement I've seen in the longest time. It's like, Okay, you've probably seen some commercials for it or some promo on the streets, so I'm just gonna tell you. Krispy Kreme. What the fuck, guys? Come on, you guys are the worst at this. It's almost like you held the director, the producer at knife point and said, "Bitch, put us in the movie." All right, okay, that's fine. We'll put you in the movie. Look, there's a cup on the screen. That's not good enough. You gotta put us in the plot. Put us in the plot. I'm sorry, what? Put us in the plot. Okay, you're part of the plot. Here, let me get the writer. Dude, put Krispy Kreme in the plot. I don't give a fuck how you do it, just do it. Yeah, they do that. It's part of the plot. Krispy Kreme is part of the plot. I'm sorry if that's a spoiler, but I feel like I need to warn you ahead of time before you feel like your mind is imploding in the theater. With that being said, I will admit that this is an enjoyable movie that I feel like I can easily forget the first half of this movie or so because of how fun the last half is. The more the movie went on, it started to kind of find its identity, and once we kick in with the CG and the budget finally allows the Power Rangers to come to fruition, that's when the movie is at its finest for not only a action movie fan, but definitely for the Power Ranger fans out there, myself included. So I'll be giving Power Rangers a very, 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 very low 8 out of 10. It would have been a 7 because of the product placement that was getting on my nerves, but there is a little joke in the middle of this climax amongst all this commotion. Tell me, if you have seen Power Rangers, let me know in the comments without ruining it. There's a joke, a visual gag in the climax that I interpreted as a "come at me, bro." Billy is often saying "come at me, bro" throughout this movie. It's almost like this movie itself said "come at me, bro" to another big blockbuster franchise. It's almost like they fired some shots. I'm not gonna lie. It was like that meme you see on Facebook or whatever. All those guys going, "Ooh!" If you caught that gag, please let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of it, as well as the movie overall. Do you think it pleased your kid inside who grew up watching Power Rangers? If you were a fan of Power Rangers, if you were not, please let me know so that we can help you. No, it's okay if you didn't. I'm honestly curious as to why you didn't grow up with Power Rangers. Did you grow up with another kind of series that really it was very emblematic of your childhood? Please let me know your comments and your feedback in the comments below. Yeah, that's kind of where comments go. David, shut up at this point and go ahead and plug in your Instagram and your Twitter. And I will tell you to do so by following me at DarkSpiderDavid on those social media platforms. And of course, do not forget to like and share this video. And if you want some more of this nerdy goodness, then be sure to follow my YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button below. Until next time, guys, take care. It is Morphin time.